The story begins with the crown prince, Hyo Moyang, who secretly enjoys reading romantic tales of past kings. Meanwhile, the female lead Ra An lives disguised as a boy and earns money by giving love advice. One day, a young man asks for help because the girl he likes ignores him. Ra An suggests he stay away for 10 days and then act indifferent. When he follows her plan, the girl finally runs to him, admitting she missed him, proving Ra An's advice works perfectly. In the village, everyone knows Ra An as Sam Nam, unaware of her true identity, and her reputation keeps growing. However, trouble follows her as some people demand money she owes, forcing her to hide. While escaping, she spots a notice about a palace job for a eunuch with good pay. Though tempted, she hesitates, knowing she's actually a girl. Later, she returns to the man who raised her, though he isn't her real father. Soon after, a client asks Ra An to write a love letter. She crafts it beautifully, but it accidentally reaches the crown prince because it's meant for his stepsister. Reading it, he becomes furious and suspects someone is deceiving her. Determined to uncover the truth, he secretly replies, asking the sender to meet him. The boy, terrified of facing royalty, begs Ra An to go in his place and claim it was a mistake. At first she refuses, but when he offers money, she reluctantly agrees. Ra An arrives at the meeting place and is surprised to find a young man waiting. She assumes her client must secretly like this boy and was too scared to face him. Stepping forward, she pretends to be the one who wrote the letter. The prince admits the letter made him happy, but Ra An, still acting like a boy, says their relationship can't continue because of the differences between them. The prince coldly replies that she should have thought of that earlier. Trying to stay convincing, Ra An says she truly liked him and only wanted to confess her feelings once. To end things on a light note, he suggests they share a final meal together. They go to a small restaurant where an old woman is loudly scolding everyone. Ra An laughs, saying the woman reminds her of her grandmother. But the prince says he never experienced anything like that and adds that no one dares to treat him casually. Playfully, Ra An touches him and teases that he must be someone who is always treated gently. Their banter continues until the old woman starts shouting at them too, but she quickly stops after realizing he is the crown prince and hurriedly leaves. Afterward, the prince leads Ra An away, but suddenly his tone changes. He holds a knife to her neck and accuses her of deceiving him, saying he had hoped she was sincere toward his sister. He also points out that she doesn't even know who she wrote the letter to and is only pretending to be someone important. Ra An boldly replies that she is actually quite wealthy. At the same time, trouble grows around her. A soldier is seen carrying her sketch, as the people she once helped escape, especially a minister's daughter, are now being searched for, and Ra An has become part of the investigation. Meanwhile, the prince secretly follows her, wanting to discover where she lives and who she really is. As she moves ahead, Ra An suddenly remembers the trap set by the people she owes money to, realizing she might be walking straight into danger. Thinking quickly, Ra An comes up with a plan. She tells the prince to turn around so she can use the washroom, but the moment he does, she kicks him into a hidden pit. Unfortunately, he grabs her as he falls, and both of them end up trapped inside. Furious, the prince demands an explanation, but his anger turns into panic when he notices a snake on his shoulder. He starts shouting, and Ra An bravely steps in, catching and killing the snake to save him. Trying to escape, the prince orders her to sit so he can climb out using her shoulder, assuming she's just a boy. But Ra An refuses and tells him to do the same for her instead. This annoys him, and he forces her to comply. However, when he steps on her, she can't support his weight and he falls again. After several failed attempts, the prince finally lifts Ra An up, telling her to climb out first and bring help. With great effort, she manages to reach the top. Once outside, Ra An hesitates. She realizes that if she helps him, he might punish her for pushing him in. So she refuses and tells him to find his own way out. The prince, filled with rage, warns her that if they meet again, she will regret it. Unfazed, Ra An boldly replies that she'll deal with it when that time comes and walks away. Later that night, Ra An looks at sketches of herself and the two people she once helped escape. A young man named Kim Yune mentions that the runaway girl might actually be the minister's wife, not daughter. Ron quickly denies it, but Kim Yoon notices her reaction and recognizes her from the wanted sketch. As she tries to flee, soldiers approach, and she quickly disguises her face. Sensing the tension, Kim Yune cleverly questions the crowd about the third person in the sketch. When someone says that person helped the fugitives and would be executed if caught, Ron becomes nervous. To protect her, Kim Yoon suddenly pulls her into an embrace and leads her away from the danger. As they walk away, Kim Yoon hints that simply marking her face won't be enough to hide who she really is, showing he has already figured out that Ra-an is a girl. After parting ways with him, her troubles worsen when the men she owes money to capture her and sell her to a group that turns boys into eunuchs. Terrified, Ra-an is told she will be starved for 3 days before the procedure. When the time comes, she cleverly flatters the man in charge and gets him drunk. By morning, there's blood everywhere, and he assumes the procedure is done, but in reality he only injured her leg while drunk. Without realizing the truth, he sends Ra-an to the palace for the same eunuch job she once considered. At the palace gate, Ra-an recalls that she will be inspected, which would expose her secret. Panicked, she tries to escape, but suddenly runs into the crown prince, Myong. Both are stunned, remembering their last encounter and the warning he gave her. The prince smirks, recalling how she once said she would obey anything he asked, even act like a dog. Embarrassed, Ra-an tries to run, but he grabs her, teasingly calling her puppy. Trying to distract him, she lies that she had sent someone to help him earlier. He responds coldly, brushing it off, and questions why she's out so late. She quickly makes up another excuse, saying a senior eunuch sent her on an errand. At that moment, the senior eunuch appears, but the prince silently signals him to stay quiet and orders him to keep an eye on her. The next day, the new recruits are warned that any mistake will lead to death, leaving everyone terrified. Soon, they are taken for inspection. When Ra-an realizes how the test is conducted, fear takes over, and she tries to escape. But she is stopped and dragged back just as it becomes her turn, putting her secret in serious danger. Just as Ra-an's turn for inspection arrives, a eunuch suddenly rushes in with urgent news that the queen is unwell. The official in charge hurries away, accidentally dropping his stamp onto Ra-an's document. Another eunuch later sees the stamped paper and assumes she has already passed, allowing her to escape the test without being exposed. Meanwhile, the royal court is filled with joy as the queen, who is the minister's daughter, is pregnant. The minister and his allies hope she gives birth to a son who could become the next crown prince. When someone suggests that Myong should congratulate his stepmother, he shows no interest. Instead, he quietly misses his own mother. When he finally visits, the king asks him to take care of the queen, but the prince coldly replies that his presence might only bring trouble to the child, just as he believes he has brought trouble before. With that, he walks away, leaving the king saddened. On the other side, Ra-an learns about an upcoming exam required to secure the eunuch position. If she fails, she'll be dismissed, something that secretly gives her hope of escaping the palace. However, the prince also hears about this and realizes she might try to fail on purpose. Wanting revenge, he disguises himself as a eunuch and secretly enters the exam hall. As Ra-an works on the test, he unexpectedly helps her complete it, ensuring she passes and stays trapped in the palace. Later, the king hosts a grand celebration for the queen's pregnancy and invites the prince, but he refuses to attend, deepening the king's disappointment. Around the same time, Ra-an is given a strange task by a senior eunuch to catch chickens in the yard. While chasing one, she ends up climbing onto the rooftop, still trying to complete the odd assignment. Elsewhere, the prince stands alone, bored, when suddenly Ra-an, chasing a hen, slips and falls right on top of him. Annoyed but amused, he helps her up and jokes that seeing her felt like a sudden shock. At the same time, the eunuch's exam papers are sent to the princess for review. During the celebration at the palace, the prince finally arrives, surprising the king. When questioned, he casually says that where there is music and wine, he has no reason to stay away, pretending to share in the joy. Meanwhile, the princess goes through the papers and suddenly recognizes the handwriting from the love letter Ra-an once wrote. She immediately calls for Ra-an. When Ra-an appears, she is with Hyam Mayong and his guard. Unaware of his true identity, she starts speaking boldly, even mocking the prince as rude and half-hearted in nature. Angered by her words, the prince shuts her up by forcing food into her mouth, but she still continues to criticize him. Frustrated, he throws the spoon down in anger. Soon after, Ra-an is brought before the princess, who shows her the letter and demands the truth. When Ra-an admits she wrote it, the princess becomes furious, offended that such a letter was sent in her name. In a burst of anger, she even raises a sword to kill her. Just in time, the prince arrives and stops her. The princess explains that someone had confessed love to her through that letter, but she asks him to keep it a secret from the king. After the princess leaves, Ra-an breaks down and begs for forgiveness. Seeing her cry makes the prince uncomfortable, so he quietly walks away. Later, his guard questions how long he will keep his identity hidden from her, but the prince dismisses it, saying revealing the truth would only complicate things. Not long after, Ra-an is assigned to serve in the palace of the king's second wife. In another moment, the prince brings her along with his guard and remarks that not everyone has the right to belong in the palace only, those born into it truly do, hinting at the deep divide between their worlds. Ra-an quietly admits that she has never truly had a place to call home, which unexpectedly touches the prince and leaves him feeling heavy-hearted. Meanwhile, the king is shaken by a terrifying dream in which his palace is filled with blood and people call him a murderer. He wakes up in fear, realizing it was only a nightmare. At the same time, the king's second wife entrusts Ra-an with the care of her mute daughter, giving her a new responsibility inside the palace. The prince shares a close bond with the king's second wife because she comforted him after his mother's death. In a brief memory, when he was once injured, she gently told him that it's okay for a man to cry during difficult times, something he had always tried to hide. Back in the present, the prince notices a box of letters in her room, hinting at hidden secrets. Later, in the garden, Ra-an spends time with the young princess, who playfully places a flower in her hair before running off. Not realizing she's alone, Ra-an casually remarks that she wishes the prince's personality matched his name. Just then, Hyam Myong appears behind her and responds, catching her off guard. Their playful argument begins as both question why the other is there. Ra-an, pretending concern, warns him that wandering around could get him in trouble, but he only laughs. When she calls him a friend, he quickly denies it, teasing her instead by calling her his puppy and himself her owner. Spotting the flower in her hair, he reminds her she's supposed to be a boy, lightly hitting her head before walking away. Soon after, the king summons the prince and confesses that his disturbing dreams are pushing him toward an important decision. He wants to make the prince the next king. However, to his surprise, the prince firmly refuses the offer. The prince firmly tells the king that he has no desire to become the next ruler. At the same time, the king's second wife asks Ra-an to deliver a letter to the king. When Ra-an hands it over, the palace eunuch immediately gives her a reply. Confused, she questions how a response could come so quickly. The eunuch casually explains that the king usually sends blank replies, so they prepare one in advance to avoid bothering him. Realizing this, Ra-an takes the original letter back. Just then, another queen arrives and questions the second queen's condition. When Ra-an says she isn't well, the queen mocks her and suddenly slaps Ra-an, ordering her to deliver the reply letter anyway. Hurt and humiliated, Ra-an breaks down in tears. Kim Yune sees her and feels sorry, so he takes her away to a quiet place. There, Ra-an feels comforted and wonders why he always helps her. He hints that he understands more about her than he lets on, suggesting that sometimes a man should pretend not to know a woman's secret. This startles Ra-an, but he quickly changes the topic, leaving her uneasy. Later, determined to do the right thing, Ra-an finds another way to deliver the queen's letter. She secretly slips it among the king's official documents, ensuring it reaches him. The king reads it, and Ra-an later brings back his reply. The queen is hopeful at first, but when she opens the letter and finds it blank, her heart sinks, thinking the king doesn't care for her. Ra-An apologizes, feeling guilty. The queen then hands Ra-An a box filled with old letters and asks her to burn them. As Ra-An sadly prepares to do so, lost in thought, Hilmyeong suddenly arrives with his guard and questions her about the box, interrupting the moment. Ra-An shows the box of letters to Hilmyeong and questions how the king could send blank messages to the queen. After looking closely, the prince realizes these letters were never truly empty. Confused, Ra-An insists that even the letter she personally received from the king was blank, making the situation even more suspicious. Angered, the prince confronts the king and urges him to visit the queen, who is unwell. But the king refuses, saying he will simply send a physician. This frustrates the prince, who insists the queen needs him, not a doctor. The king avoids the issue, claiming he cannot meet her because of her pregnancy. This sparks deeper anger in the prince, who questions what the king is so afraid of, reminding him of how he avoided things even after his mother's death. A memory flashes back where the young prince once asked how his mother died, having heard whispers of murder, but the king nervously dismissed it as illness. In the present, the prince accuses him of doing nothing then and nothing now, before storming away. Meanwhile, Ra-An prepares to burn the letters as ordered. Just then, the prince's guard, Kim Bom, stops her and examines them. Holding the paper near a flame, hidden words begin to appear. He explains that the letters were written using a special liquid that only becomes visible with heat. Realizing this, Ra-An feels a rush of hope. She quickly shares the discovery with the prince and then rushes to tell the queen. When the queen reads the revealed message, she is overwhelmed with emotion. The letter expresses the king's true feelings, his helplessness and his longing to see her, along with an apology. Soon after, the king and queen secretly meet, and both Ra-An and the prince witness this heartfelt moment. A memory reveals the king's hidden pain. He once told the prince that every time he tried to fully act as a king, he lost someone he loved, including his wife. To protect his son, he chose to hide his affection and act distant, fearing that showing love would put him in danger too. The next day in court, the king shocks everyone by saying he no longer wishes to rule and asks who will take his place. No one dares to answer. Finally, he turns to the prince and asks if he will become king. The court hesitates, some arguing that the prince is still too young, while the minister remains silent, already aware that the prince has no desire to accept the throne. The minister suggests that the king should at least ask the prince directly. When questioned again, the prince finally agrees to take the throne. But this turns out to be part of a plan already arranged between him and the king. Soon after, Ra-An is sent to the palace library, where the prince is also present, dressed in royal attire. Not recognizing him at first, she casually remarks that the library is only for the crown prince and wonders what he's doing there. The prince avoids facing her, but when a eunuch tells Ra-An to leave, she urges him to go too before the real prince arrives. At that moment, remembering his guard's words that the truth can't stay hidden forever, Hilmyeong decides to reveal himself. He steps forward and tells her his name, and Ra-An is left stunned upon seeing him in his true identity. In the court, preparations begin for officially declaring him as the next king. However, one official raises concern, saying that past decisions made without proper discussion have harmed the kingdom. Taking this into account, the king announces that a grand celebration will be held on his 40th birthday, where even envoys from Qing will be invited, hinting that the final decision may be revealed there. When Ra-An sees the prince in royal clothing, she bursts out laughing, unable to believe it. She casually says that outfit is only meant for the crown prince. But then the truth suddenly hits her. Shocked, she quickly apologizes. Hilmyeong playfully responds, asking whether he should forgive her or punish her, joking that those are the only two options, even for a friend. He smiles, but Ra-An remains frozen in embarrassment, remembering all the rude things she once said about him. Feeling ashamed, she even starts scolding herself. Later, a eunuch explains to Ra-An how to properly wake the prince. She must knock, wait for permission, and only then enter. Nervous, she tries to avoid the task, but before she can escape, the prince himself appears and calls her inside. Reluctantly, she enters and helps him get dressed. During this moment, He asks if she regrets being his friend. She honestly admits that if she had known his true identity earlier, she would have never spoken to him so freely. The prince replies that this is exactly why he hid the truth, because he valued their natural friendship. As she helps him wear his cap, her shorter height makes it difficult, forcing her to stand on her toes. The prince playfully does the same, causing her to lose balance and fall onto him, leaving his cap crooked. He fixes it himself, then gently tells her that when they are alone, he wants her to treat him not as a prince, but as a friend. In the next scene, he visits his teacher to discuss the arrangements for the upcoming royal celebration. Meanwhile, Ra-en goes to the market with Kim Yun. She feels excited seeing colorful dresses on display, but her happiness quickly fades as she realizes she can't wear them while hiding her identity. Understanding her feelings, Kim Yun quietly buys one of the dresses. When she asks what's in his bag, he avoids answering. Suddenly, it starts raining, and they rush to find shelter. Even under cover, Ra-en still gets wet, so Kim Yun suggests she use the dress to shield herself. At first, she hesitates, but then follows his advice and holds it over her head. Seeing her like that, he can't help but find her adorable and goes to fetch an umbrella. While he's gone, Hyeon-myung arrives and stands nearby, not recognizing Ra-en since her face is hidden. She, however, notices him and grows nervous. As she almost slips, the prince calmly tells her she can stay there until the rain stops, showing unexpected concern. Just then, Kim Yun returns and quickly tells the prince that the girl is with him. Later, the prince recalls his teacher's words, that if the people support him, becoming king will be inevitable, leaving him deep in thought about his future. The prince admits that not everyone in the palace wants him to become king and that some will try to stop him. His teacher wisely replies that if something can be achieved without force, then there's no need for poison. Understanding the deeper meaning, Hyeon-myung decides to win people over in a different way. He plans a grand event with music and dance to impress everyone. The next day, he gathers performers and assigns Ra-en the responsibility of managing everything and keeping him updated. As preparations begin, Ra-en accidentally bumps into him while walking behind, and he simply smiles, creating a light moment between them. Soon, the big event begins and an important guest from Qing arrives, appearing ambitious and calculating. At the same time, a hidden truth is revealed. The main dancer has been threatened by the third queen, who forces her to run away by putting her family's life at risk. When Ra-en learns this, she becomes worried, remembering how important this performance is for the prince. Determined to help, Ra-en decides to take the dancer's place herself. She secretly dresses as a girl, but a eunuch almost catches her. Meanwhile, the prince realizes the original dancer is missing and sends Kim Bom to find her. Just then, Ra-en appears on stage wearing a mask and begins to dance. The prince watches her closely, unable to recognize her, while Kim Yun-nae suspects the truth. After her performance, the prince steps forward and delivers a powerful speech he had prepared. His words leave a strong impression, even pleasing the Qing guest, marking an important moment for his future. The king feels proud after the prince's performance, while Ra-en quietly slips away from the event. Hyeon-myung notices someone leaving and follows, but before he can catch her, Kim Yun hides Ra-en. Once the prince leaves, she comes out, embarrassed, saying how awkward it felt for her to dress as a girl. Kim Yun, however, realizes that even now she refuses to accept her true identity. Ra-en explains that she only did it because she heard the success of the event was important for the prince. When Kim Yun-nae asks if she risked herself for him, she admits it, saying she belongs to his palace now. Meanwhile, the prince orders the senior eunuch to find the missing dancer. Thinking back, he realizes the dancer on stage knew every move perfectly, just like Ra-en. Suspicious, he asks for her to be found. At the same time, Kim Yun notices Ra-en's injured foot and gently treats it before helping her change back into her eunuch clothes. When he later sees the prince searching for her, he cleverly misleads him, saying she went to his palace. The prince heads there and finds Ra-en already present. When questioned, she calmly lies that she returned early to write a song for him. Seeing the written page, the prince begins to doubt his suspicion. A brief memory shows how Kim Yoon helped her return safely in time. Later, while Ra Ann is cleaning the library, she suddenly starts coughing and covers her face with a cloth. The prince watches closely, then licks her face slightly, focusing only on her eyes, which remind him of the mysterious dancer, making him question her once again. The prince tells Ra Ann to stop coughing, but she replies that it's not something she can control. When she asks for a day off, he guesses she wants to attend the Lantern Festival. Noticing her condition, Hyam Myung gently touches her forehead and realizes she has a high fever. He tells her to rest, warning that she might make him sick too if she doesn't take care of herself. Later, while serving tea to the young princess, Ra Ann tries to protect her when she almost falls into the water. In the process, Ra Ann slips and falls in herself. Seeing this, the prince immediately jumps in and rescues her. Kim Yoon also arrives at the scene. Once they are out, everyone rushes to care for the prince, while the senior eunuch scolds Ra Ann for putting him in danger and orders her to apologize. She does so, but the prince steps in and defends her, saying it was his own choice to jump in. Afterward, Kim Yoon quietly follows Ra Ann and wraps a shawl around her to keep her warm. He gently tells her that she can trust him with her secret, but she avoids answering and walks away. That night, Ra Ann dreams about her childhood. She sees herself at a lantern festival with her mother, but the moment turns dark when unknown people start chasing them. Her mother hides her and runs away to protect her, sacrificing herself in the process. Ra Ann begins to cry in her sleep. The prince, who is nearby, watches her silently and wipes away her tears. In her half-asleep state, she holds his hand, thinking it's someone else. When she wakes up, she believes it was Kim Bom and shares her dream, saying she saw her mother again. The prince softly replies that it must have been painful, but Ron smiles sadly and says it was a happy dream, because at least she got to see her mother once more. Hearing this leaves the prince deeply moved and quiet. The next day, Ron gently reminds the prince that he jumped into the water to save her. Instead of responding warmly, the prince questions why she was there when he had told her to rest. His tone upsets her, and she quickly mentions that Kim Yoon always takes good care of her and isn't even afraid of getting sick from her. Hearing this, the prince becomes irritated. He firmly gives her medicine and tells her to take it properly, then allows her to attend the Lantern Festival, which brightens her mood. Meanwhile, Kim Yoon stands alone, thinking about his childhood memories with the prince and their carefree days. Just then, the prince arrives and asks what he's doing there. Their conversation turns serious when Kim Yoon questions why he agreed to become king, despite never wanting it. The prince explains that he wants to end the control of powerful families and fix the system. This answer frustrates Kim Yoon, and he walks away angrily. Later, Ra An goes to a place where Kim Yoon had called her. He invites her to the Lantern Festival, but she refuses at first. Still, he insists and tries to convince her, even offering medicine, but she says the prince has already taken care of her. At the same time, Kim Yoon's father introduces him to a business partner, forcing him to stay even though he wants to leave for the festival. On the other side, Ra An waits alone at the festival, feeling disappointed. For a moment, she thinks she sees her mother, but it turns out to be the prince. He notices her sadness and asks why she isn't enjoying herself. She pretends she is fine and questions why he came alone. The prince calmly says he doesn't need anyone and urges her to make the most of her limited time. Ra-an refuses, saying she's not his servant outside the palace and asks him to ignore her. But the prince lightly scolds her for overreacting and pulls her along. Soon, the two start enjoying the festival together, sharing simple but happy moments. Meanwhile, Kim Yoon finally arrives and begins searching for Ra-an, while the prince comes across a little girl selling lanterns. The prince buys all the lanterns from the little girl and gently asks her to give them to the poor, which fills her with joy. Smiling, he asks about her wish. Innocently, she says she wants to meet the king and ask him to make the country a better place. Curious, the prince asks what she means by a good country, and she replies that it is one where the king truly cares for all his people. Later, the king looks at the lanterns and reflects that they carry the hopes of his people, yet he feels powerless to fulfill them. Turning to the eunuch, he expresses his only wish that the prince be supported in whatever he chooses to do. The eunuch quietly begins to think deeply about this. In another moment, a man urges Kim Bom to take revenge, saying their people have already suffered too much. But Kim Bom insists they should wait for Ching's decision. The man, however, reminds him to focus on his duty, warning that the prince is not his ally. Meanwhile, Ra-O-Yu sees Som's alone on a bridge when the prince approaches her with a lantern. She tells him to make a wish, and as he releases it into the sky, he gazes at her, reminded of the mysterious dancer. Ra-On notices the message written on the lantern. It says, Sam Nam should meet her mother. Hurt, she asks if that is truly his wish. The prince softly replies that his real wish is for all of her wishes to come true. At a distance, Kim Yoon watches them together, feeling a quiet sadness as he turns away. He tries to convince himself that there is no reason to feel jealous since the prince doesn't even know Ra-On's true identity. Still, his emotions linger. The prince then admits to Ra-On that she reminds him of someone, though he knows it may sound strange. When she asks who, he simply says, a girl. At that moment, Kim Yoon arrives, apologizing for being late and telling the prince that he and Ra-Un had plans. But the prince refuses to let her go, claiming she belongs to him. This angers Kim Yoon. Suddenly, a group of women approaches and begins flirting with Kim Yoon and Ra-On, ignoring the prince because of his status. They try to take the two along, but Kim Yoon refuses. Then, recalling the prince's teasing words about her seeming like a girl, Ra-On impulsively hugs one of the women and goes with them, leaving Kim Yoon completely stunned. The next day, when Ra-On comes to help dress the prince, he casually asks if she enjoyed the previous day. She replies that she did. The prince then tells her not to take his earlier words seriously, saying that a eunuch is still a man at heart, and what he said about her being a girl meant nothing. After that, he calls another eunuch and sends Ra-On away. Meanwhile, Kim Bom secretly steals some record books. He hides one for himself and hands the rest to his boss. These books contain details about people involved in smuggling. His boss then gives him another document listing children who became orphans during the war. He orders Kim Bom to find the rightful heir of Hong Yong's family among them, as Hong Yong and the king share a long-standing rivalry. In another moment, the prince comes across one of Ra-An's notebooks. As he flips through it, he sees that every page is filled with drawings of himself. This makes him smile, clearly touched by her feelings. Elsewhere, a eunuch who knows Ra-An's true identity deliberately sends her to Ching's room and locks her inside. Ching recognizes her as the girl who once danced and questions why she lives disguised as a eunuch. When he tries to get close to her, Ra-An resists, insisting she is only there to guard him from outside. His behavior becomes aggressive, and when she pushes him away, he grows furious. He even slaps her and threatens that if he doesn't choose her prince, the prince will never become king. As he continues to act inappropriately, Ra-On pushes him again, causing him to fall. At that very moment, the prince arrives. Seeing what's happening, he immediately points his sword at Ching and rescues Ra-An, taking her away. When the king hears that the prince threatened Ching over a mere eunuch, he becomes extremely angry. The queen also uses this situation to turn the king further against the prince. Later, the prince takes Ra-An aside, lets go of her hand and scolds her, saying she could have refused to go there in the first place. The prince warns Ra-An that if he hadn't arrived in time, something terrible could have happened. She explains that she was only following orders, but he firmly tells her that from now on she must refuse anything that feels wrong. Just then, soldiers arrive under the king's command and take Ra-An away to prison. The prince tries to reassure her, promising to speak to the king, but when he does, the king ignores his plea and sends him away. At the same time, Kim Yoon learns about Ra-An's arrest. Furious, he threatens a eunuch at gunpoint, warning him never to harm her again. Later, the prince secretly outsmarts the guards, sends them away, and unlocks Ra-An's cell himself. Sitting beside her, he admits he isn't angry with her. He's frustrated with himself for losing control around her. He asks her to promise that she will never accept injustice again, and she agrees before he quietly leaves. Meanwhile, a decision is made not to remove the prince from power, but to punish him by taking Ra-An away. Kim Yoon is outraged. unable to understand why so much is being risked over a single eunuch. But no one listens. Determined, he later shares a plan with Kim Bom. The next day, as Ching prepares to take Ra-on with him, the prince suddenly appears. When Ching mockingly asks if he came to say goodbye, the prince instead holds a knife to his neck and demands that he let her go. A minister warns him that he's risking the kingdom for one person, but the prince boldly declares he won't let anyone take what belongs to him. Despite this, Ron chooses to go with them, unwilling to let others suffer because of her. Soon after, they set off and pause for a while in the forest. They tie Ra-on up and move ahead to complete a smuggling deal. Just then, the prince arrives with his soldiers and Kim Bom. A fight breaks out and they overpower the group. When questioned, Ching confidently claims no one will believe them. However, officers soon arrive sent by Kim Yune, revealing that this entire plan was arranged in advance. Kim Bom had already informed the prince about Ching's secret deal, acting on Kim Yoon's instructions. The prince rushes to Ra-an, unties her, and sets her free. Seeing her injured face, he feels deeply upset. When she asks what will happen next, he gently tells her to go home, assuring her that everything is under control. He admits he was afraid he might not reach her in time. Soon after, Kim Bom brings 2 horses. He rides one, while the prince helps Ra-on onto the other and rides with her. Back at the palace, Ron thanks Kim Yune for always looking out for her, remembering how he cared for her when she was sick. But Kim Yoon denies it, making her realize it was actually the prince who had helped her all along. This reminds her of his wish to help her find her mother, and she feels touched and happy. The next day, Kim Yoon checks on her health and she assures him she's fine. The prince then arrives and thanks Kim Yoon for his support, but Kim Yoon replies that he had his own reasons, hinting at his concern for Ra-an. Later, the prince calls Ra-an to taste his food. She enjoys it a lot, which secretly pleases him. Pretending the food isn't good, he tells her to eat it instead of letting it go to waste. Understanding this, Ra-an quickly finishes everything. The prince watches in surprise at how fast she eats. Then Ra-an softly reminds him of his promise, asking if he truly meant that she would always stay by his side. Ra-an asks what the prince meant earlier, and he simply replies that a eunuch should stay by his master's side, that's all. Thinking it's nothing special, Ra-an accepts his answer and moves on. Later in the kitchen, Ra-an accidentally witnesses a eunuch flirting with a court lady while hiding under a table. When the lady notices her, she scolds the eunuch, making him angry. He threatens Ron to stay quiet, but she calmly offers to help. Mocking her situation, he points out that she herself is living disguised as a eunuch, despite being a girl. In anger, he grabs her by the neck, but Kim Bom arrives just in time and saves her. As he checks if she's okay, the prince suddenly steps in and pulls him away, leaving Kim Bom confused by his reaction. The next day, the prince notices a senior eunuch scolding others and asks why. After some hesitation, the eunuch reveals that rumors are spreading that the prince is interested in men. The prince is initially furious, but when he sees Ra-an, he realizes what caused the misunderstanding. Instead of reacting harshly, he laughs it off, pretending it's just a joke, though the eunuch warns that the gossip is spreading throughout the palace. The prince assures him he will handle it himself. Later in the library, Ra-an drops a small puppet she made. The prince picks it up and asks about it, but she tries to take it back without explaining. In the struggle, it tears. The prince assumes she made it to help the eunuch confess his feelings to the court lady and says it's pointless. Ra-an admits it may be useless, but says feelings can't simply be stopped. When the prince argues there's no point in confessing to someone who doesn't feel the same, Ra-an gently replies that staying silent is also wrong sometimes. A confession can change things. Her words leave the prince feeling even more troubled. In the next moment, Kim Yoon brings a gift for Ra-an, and she quietly confesses that the prince is facing many difficulties because of her. Ra-an admits she feels guilty, and Kim Yoon asks whether she feels that way as a eunuch or as a girl. She quietly answers that it's as a eunuch. He then shows her a dress and gently asks if she doesn't want to live as her true self. Ra-an says she's fine the way she is, But Kim Yoon warns her that the palace is not safe. He offers to help her escape so she can live freely as a girl and asks her to think about it. When she tries to respond, he stops her, saying he will wait for her decision. After he leaves, Ra-an is left staring at the dress, deep in thought. Later, Ra-an performs a puppet show that reflects the story of a eunuch and a court lady in love. In the play, the eunuch finally confesses his feelings and the court lady happily accepts them. But the moment is interrupted when Ra-an is suddenly taken to the queen. Knowing the prince cares about her, the queen uses this chance against him. As soon as the prince hears, he rushes to the queen. She mocks his presence, pointing out that he usually avoids her. He firmly states that he has come to take back his palace eunuch. The queen, angered by the puppet show, slaps Ra-an harshly, clearly trying to provoke the prince. Though upset, the prince hides his emotions and calmly laughs it off, saying it was just a harmless story and nothing serious. He then tells Ra-an to stand and leave. Even as Ra-an apologizes, he insists she go. The queen warns him about the rumors spreading in the palace, but the prince tells her to stop letting personal feelings make things worse. Without saying more, he takes Ra-an with him and leaves. Later, Ra-an, feeling conflicted, tells the prince not to treat her so kindly anymore. Ra-an admits she feels guilty anymore. Ra-an tells the prince they can't be close and should keep their distance. Hurt, he replies that she belongs to him and no one else can decide their relationship. She insists he should treat her like any other eunuch, leaving the prince saddened as he walks away. That night, the prince recalls her words about expressing feelings and wonders if confessing might bring happiness. He begins writing her a letter. At the same time, Ra-an looks at the dress Kim Yoon gave her, confused about whether she wants to live as a girl or continue as a eunuch. The next day, the prince calls Ra-an and suddenly pulls her close, holding her hand. Shocked, she reminds him he is the crown prince, but he says he is also just a man, and he likes her. Ra-an is stunned and questions how he can feel that way about a eunuch. The prince tells her not to deny his feelings, especially since she once said emotions shouldn't be hidden. Despite her fear of what others might think, he admits he still wants to take the risk, and then he kisses her. A memory reveals that earlier, while writing the letter, the prince had gone to Ra-an's quarters and seen a beautiful girl, the same one who had danced before. In that moment, he realizes that Ra-an and that girl are the same person, which fills him with quiet happiness. The next day, he openly confesses his feelings, leaving Ra-an deeply shaken. Later, while sitting with Kim Bom, Ra-an asks if the prince has ever liked anyone before. When he says no, she is even more surprised. In another moment, Kim Yoon meets the prince in the library, while Ra-an secretly watches them. When the prince looks her way, she quickly hides, but accidentally drops her books. Both men come over to help her. Afterward, Kim Yoon begins to notice how happy Ra-an seems around the prince. He recalls when she once said living as a eunuch didn't suit her, yet she still chose to stay. This makes him question what is so important to her in the palace that she is willing to ignore all the dangers around her. Kim Yoon finally realizes that Ra-an wants to stay in the palace because she has feelings for the prince. Meanwhile, the prince asks Kim Bom if he knows anything about Hong Yong's daughter and whether she might still be alive. Kim Bom says he doesn't know, but the prince orders him to find her before anyone else does. Later, Ra-an walks behind the prince holding a heavy umbrella. When it almost slips from her hands, the prince quickly catches it. She nervously tells him not to do such things since others are watching, but he brushes it off, saying he wants some sunlight. Still, others insist she hold it, so Ra-an stubbornly says she can manage after all. How can she call herself a man if she can't even carry an umbrella? Her words make the prince smile. He then makes her sit beside him and, while pretending to read, gently holds her hand, noticing how rough it feels. Ra-an awkwardly says all girls have hands like that, and the prince teasingly replies that it's exactly this toughness that made him fall for her. He even lets her rest her head on his shoulder, but she pulls back, asking him not to care so much, since he doesn't really know her. The prince calmly replies that he never claimed to know everything. He just wants her to rest and softly places her head back on his shoulder. At the same time, Kim Bom continues his search and asks a woman about Hong Yong's daughter. She tells him the girl once lived nearby but is likely dead, as soldiers had searched everywhere for her. When he asks her name, she reveals it's Ra, and yet Kim Bom still doesn't realize that the very girl he's looking for is right beside him. Later in the market, the prince comes across a man selling a bracelet said to keep lovers together forever. He buys it, thinking of Ra-an. Just then, he notices Kim being followed and steps in to help him, fighting off the attackers. During the chaos, the prince picks up a mysterious mask, and seeing it in his hands makes Kim suddenly quiet. When Kim approaches him, he asks if the prince wants to question him, but the prince simply says that if there was something to share, Kim would have already told him. For now, he just wants some space, but also admits that if there's anyone in the world he can truly trust, it's Kim. Hearing the prince say he trusts him the most, Kim feels a deep guilt, knowing he is hiding the truth. That night, when the prince returns to the palace, Ra-an asks why he stayed out so long. He quietly admits that he misses his mother. As they talk, he shares that his mother loved life outside the palace more than anything. Ra-an smiles and says she must have been like him, but he shakes his head, saying she was far wiser and that he still regrets not being able to protect her. That's why he wants to become stronger now, so he can protect the people he loves. At the same time, Kim Bom reaches Ra-an's old home and asks about the girl found at the Lantern Festival. When he learns her name is Ra-an and that she has already left, he warns her father not to reveal anything about her, as her life could be in danger. Later, the prince gives Ra-an a special bracelet, putting one on her wrist and wearing the other himself. He softly confesses that the woman he loves is standing right in front of him, leaving Ra-an stunned. At that very moment, Kim learns the shocking truth from her father, that Ran is living in the palace under a false identity. Overwhelmed, Ran asks the prince if he already knew she was a girl. When he admits it, she feels hurt and questions why he never told her. The prince apologizes and explains that he found out by accident and didn't know how to bring it up. He felt guilty watching her continue her duties in disguise, doing everything for him without knowing he had discovered her secret. Ra-an insists she chose to do it as a eunuch, but the prince gently tells her he can't let her live like that anymore. To him, she is the most precious person in the world, and he promises to protect her and keep her happy. Hearing this, Ra-an breaks down in tears, and the prince softly wipes them away. Kim Bom secretly sees the prince and Ra-an together and walks away, troubled. He realizes she is the daughter of the prince's enemy and wonders how he can separate them. Meanwhile, Ra-an tells the prince she cannot live in the palace as a girl. He insists she will be safe, but she refuses, not wanting to add to his burdens. Making an excuse, she leaves. That night, Kim Bom questions her about her past. Ra-an shares that she once worked as a love advisor and lived with her mother before that. When asked about her father, she quietly says he died when she was young. The next day, the prince looks for her but is told she's working in another palace. When he finds her, he asks if she's avoiding him. She admits she is, saying she feels ashamed for hiding her identity and doesn't know how to face him now that he knows the truth. Before he can respond, they are interrupted by news that the young princess is missing. Ra-an joins the search and discovers the princess unconscious in a room. She later learns that the princess lost her ability to speak after a traumatic incident even though she could speak before. To help her communicate, the prince had taught her to write. Ra-an gently comforts the princess, sharing her own story to make her feel less alone. Later, Ra-an returns the bracelet the prince gave her. He asks if she really thinks he can be happy without her. She explains that while she felt useful as a eunuch, as a girl she only feels like a burden. She asks for permission to leave the palace, and though it pains him, the prince lets her go. After she leaves, he quietly picks up the bracelet she returned. At the same time, the princess recalls a terrifying memory from years ago. While hiding during a game, she witnessed a minister confront a frightened woman. The woman accused him of being responsible for the prince's mother's death. To silence her, the minister ordered his soldiers to kill her. Watching this in fear left the princess so traumatized that she lost her voice. Later, the prince meets Ra-an again and admits he knew the truth, but pretended not to. He regrets it now, realizing it only pushed her away. As she prepares to leave, he stops her and asks if she can stay with him in the palace. They share a quiet, emotional moment, unsure of what to do next. Afterward, Ron sees a dress and remembers her mother once telling her she could only wear it when she grew up. Thinking about how strong she has become, she smiles softly. The next day, the prince sits alone in the garden, when suddenly, Anne appears before him, dressed as a woman. They smile at each other, and the prince softly asks what he should call her now. She says Hong Anne, but he gently replies, "No, just Anne." Hearing this makes her happy, as it was the name her mother used with love. It means to live happily, a name her father chose with hope for her future. The next morning, the prince wakes early, waiting for her. When Anne arrives and calls out to him, he lets her in. She begins helping him get ready, and as she places his cap, he lowers his head so she can do it easily. That night, noticing he seems troubled, she prepares his bed. As he rests his head on her lap, she tells him a story about a mermaid in love with a prince. Thinking he's asleep, she gently touches his face, but he suddenly holds her hand and playfully asks if the prince in the story was as handsome as him. She smiles and says yes, because the mermaid fell in love at first sight. Outside, Kimbom overhears everything and realizes Anne has revealed her true identity to the prince, yet neither of them knows she is actually the daughter of his enemy. Later, Anne hurts her foot, and her fellow eunuchs carry her inside. The prince sees this and scolds her for not being careful. When she defends herself, he gets jealous seeing her laugh with others and orders her not to do so again. She refuses to obey, which surprises him. In response, he teasingly covers her face with a book, kisses her, and calls it her punishment. Then he makes her sit still and goes to get medicine for her. Before he can return, the king summons him and tells him to marry, saying it will strengthen his claim to the throne. The prince refuses, stating he won't marry just for power. He then returns to Anne, who is upset that he took so long. Smiling, he offers to carry her on his back and assures her no one will see them as he knows a safe path. At the same time, the queen visits a pregnant maid she has been secretly caring for. A flashback reveals that, although the queen is expected to give birth to a son, the truth is she will have a daughter. Determined to make her child the king, she plans to switch the babies after birth and eliminate the maid to keep the secret hidden. Elsewhere, Anne visits the senior eunuch's room and notices a handkerchief with a flower design. She mentions her mother loved that flower, and the eunuch recalls an old friend whose wife had gifted him the same kind of handkerchief. Meanwhile, Kimbom's boss discovers that he knows Anne's true identity and demands to know why he kept it hidden. Kimbom admits he wanted to protect her from more suffering, but his boss prepares to punish him until the senior eunuch suddenly appears. Kimbom realizes that his boss is actually the leader of the rebel group. The man warns him that they will soon reveal the truth about Hong Yong's daughter. This makes Kimbom anxious, as he fears for Anne's safety. The next day, the prince plans to introduce Anne to his teacher, but when she arrives, she is shocked to see the senior eunuch there instead. He calmly says he has been waiting for her for a long time, which scares her since he knows her real name. Just then, the prince arrives and questions him. The eunuch quickly explains that he knew her from childhood when she lived nearby with her mother. Trusting him, the prince asks him to look after Anne in the palace now that her identity is known. Later, the eunuch quietly tells Anne that he will reveal everything soon, but for now, she must be patient. Meanwhile, the prince gets angry when he sees a young girl imprisoned for handing out pamphlets. He believes she is innocent and frees her, saying he will take responsibility if she is proven guilty. A few days later, panic spreads in the palace when poison is found in the king's food. During the investigation, it's revealed that the food was prepared by that girl's father. While others blame the prince for interfering earlier, he still defends the girl, refusing to believe she is at fault. During a search, a eunuch discovers a woman's dress among Anne's belongings and reports it to the queen. At the same time, the prince feels conflicted, wondering why he cannot live up to his mother's teachings of helping others. When he shares his thoughts with Anne, She tells him that when the heart is hurt, it begins to doubt everything. The prince admits he needs her because she brings him peace, and she gently reassures him. Soon the queen uses the dress as proof and decides to expose Ra-An in front of everyone. As this happens, the prince is busy discussing the poison case with his teacher, unknowingly meeting Ra-An's mother's connection through him. When the queen confronts Ra-An and demands answers, Ra-An is left terrified. The queen then tries to forcefully reveal her identity. But just in time, the senior eunuch steps in and declares that Ra-An has already been examined and is officially a eunuch. With no choice, the queen backs down. Later, the prince's teacher arrives at the palace, and Ra-An recognizes him as the man who once saved her and her mother. To her, he is like a grandfather. A flashback shows how he had hidden them when soldiers were searching for them. He examines the poisoned dish and reveals that it was never poisoned at all, proving the entire situation was a setup against the prince. Dis clears the name of the girl's father, and they are finally released. In the end, the prince remembers telling his teacher that Ron is the one he loves. When questioned if his feelings would change after knowing her true background, he firmly says no. Instead, he becomes even more determined to find her parents and uncover the truth. The prince takes Ra-An outside and shares his dream of building a world where everyone can live happily. He asks her to wait for him until that day comes. Though he remembers his teacher's warning that Ra-An could become a danger if her truth is revealed, he still asks her never to leave him. Ra-An promises. Soon after, he reunites her with her mother. Their emotional meeting brings everyone to tears. Ra-An happily introduces the prince, saying he has always treated her kindly. Her mother, however, feels uneasy, knowing the prince belongs to the royal family her husband once opposed. But she hides her fears for now. Later, the teacher tells Ra-An's mother that her daughter will have to choose her future. Her mother firmly believes Ra-An cannot stay in the palace, as the truth will one day come out. Back in the palace, Kim secretly leaves a record book in the prince's room. When the prince arrives with Ra-An, Kim hides. The prince gently asks Ra-An how she felt meeting her mother, and she says she finally feels she belongs both inside and outside the palace. Sensing she might leave, the prince grows uneasy, but she reassures him that she won't go anywhere without his permission, which comforts him. Meanwhile, Kim Yoon overhears the prince calling her Ra-An and becomes suspicious, recalling that Hong Young's daughter shares the same name. At the same time, danger approaches. The palace is attacked by masked men who quietly kill the guards outside the prince's room and take their place. When Ra-An arrives with food, she senses something is wrong, but before she can react, a sword is placed at her neck. Hearing her voice, the prince rushes out with his weapon. Surrounded by enemies, he demands they let her go. Kim Yoon also arrives, and together they fight bravely, but the attackers are too many. Just as one of them tries to harm Ra-An, the prince saves her, but is suddenly stabbed and collapses. Kim Bom arrives in time and continues the fight, protecting the prince. Afterward, the king learns of the attack and orders an investigation, but the ministers involved pressure him to keep it secret, fearing it will make the prince appear weak. Security around the prince is tightened, and no one is allowed to see him. Ra-An, deeply worried, waits outside. When the prince finally wakes up, he immediately asks about her. She speaks to him through the door, tearfully saying that her happiness depends on him. Hearing this, he comes out and embraces her, assuring her that no one can take her happiness away. A few days later, the prince sends Ra-An to visit her mother. Her mother, still afraid, tells the teacher that her daughter is in grave danger, especially if her identity is revealed. Ran overhears this and is shaken. That night, the prince waits for her, thinking she may never return. But she does. In a flashback, we see she had just learned the truth about her father and felt unsure how to face the prince. Even so, she chooses to return one last time, despite her mother's warning. When she arrives, the prince is relieved and overjoyed. The next day, Ra-An takes over all his duties, sending everyone away so she can spend the entire day with him. He happily agrees, unaware of her true intentions. Meanwhile, news arrives that several attackers were killed, but one survived someone who could reveal the truth behind the attack. As Ra-an speaks with Kim Yoon-a, the prince notices his injured hand, a wound caused during the fight, and begins to realize how much others have sacrificed for him. The prince apologizes to Kim Yoon for treating him poorly. Kim Yoon calmly accepts it, saying his family background may be the reason. But the prince admits he felt guilty after seeing him get hurt. Kim Yoon-a then says he won't expect anything from him anymore, and the prince lets him do as he wishes. Later, Ra-an quietly arranges books at night. When the prince questions her, she hides the truth that she plans to leave soon. She says work should be done properly, no matter when. She also tells him she'll write down the stories she usually tells him. The prince brushes it off, saying he can just call her anytime, but Ra-an hugs him from behind, wanting to hold on to the moment, leaving him confused yet happy. Meanwhile, trouble grows for the ministers. The surviving attacker has been captured and could reveal everything. As fear spreads among them, a new loyal official, Master Humju, arrives and informs the prince that the attack wasn't carried out by the usual rebel group, hinting at a deeper conspiracy. The prince already suspects the truth. When Kimbom arrives, they both notice the mask and rush to question the captured attacker. Under pressure, the man admits he was only following orders. The prince stops any punishment and demands a proper investigation. In a flashback, it's revealed that the ministers had threatened the man to lie. During questioning, he falsely claims that Hong Yang's daughter is hiding in the palace for revenge. Before he can say more, the prime minister suddenly kills him, shocking everyone. The prince is furious and points a sword at the minister, accusing him of committing a crime in front of him. The minister boldly tells him to punish him if he believes it's wrong. Though the prince wants justice, others calm him down, and the minister is eventually let go. Meanwhile, Ra-an hears rumors that Hong Yang's daughter helped the attackers, which hurts her deeply. At the same time, news spreads that the queen is pregnant. In secret, the queen hides the newborn child of her maid. When Kim Yoon hears a baby's cry while visiting, he grows suspicious, sensing that something is not right. The king becomes furious after learning that the prime minister killed the suspect without permission. The minister defends himself, saying he acted in the heat of the moment. He then presents evidence pointing to Hom Ra-an's name, making the situation even more serious. Outside, the senior eunuch hears everything and decides that Ra-an must be protected, whether she comes willingly or has to be taken away. He even plans to bring her from the military house the very next day, which makes Kimbom anxious. At the same time, the ministers are secretly planning to kidnap Ra-an, and Kim Yoon overhears their plan. He meets Kimbom, who asks for his help in protecting her. Trusting him, Kimbom urges him to take Ra-an somewhere safe where no one can find her. Meanwhile, Ra-an stays by the prince's side, watching over him. The prince notices she looks tired and tells her she doesn't need to guard him, but she admits she just wants to see him. Smiling, he asks her to sit beside him, and they lie down together. Ra-an quietly wonders if things would be the same if she came from a noble family. The prince gently replies that it's all fate, and no matter how many times they are separated, they will always find their way back to each other. The prince falls asleep, while Ra-an quietly wonders if he will still remember her once he learns she is the daughter of his enemy. Overcome with emotion, she kisses him, not realizing he is awake but pretending to sleep. She gently touches his face, cries softly, and falls asleep beside him. By morning, Ra-an is gone. The prince grows uneasy and starts searching for her. Outside, he sees young women being taken away for questioning. When he learns they are searching for Hong Yang's daughter, named Ra-an, he is left shocked. Rushing to her room, he finds only her bracelet and clothes, confirming she has left. Earlier that morning, Kim Yoon-a had secretly helped Ra-an escape and hid her in a safe place. Later, when a girl matching her age is captured, the prince rushes to see her, hoping it's Ra-an, but it isn't. Meanwhile, Ra-an learns from her mother that her father had simple wishes, making her question why he was labeled a traitor and killed. Determined to uncover the truth, she begins to search for answers. At the same time, tension rises in the palace as the queen goes into early labor. The king becomes anxious, as the situation grows more risky and complicated. The queen gives birth to a girl but coldly orders the baby to be thrown away, choosing instead to raise the maid's son as her own. Kim Yoon secretly witnesses this shocking act. Meanwhile, The king tells the prince that a son has been born, expecting a tense reaction, but the prince happily congratulates him, bringing relief. Elsewhere, Kim Yoon-ae takes Ra-an to see the night sky and shows her a telescope. As she looks at the moon, she is reminded of the prince and breaks down in tears. Kim Yoon-ae gently tells her to let out her pain, though he struggles to comfort her. At the same time, the prince holds on to her bracelet, unable to accept that she left him, and quietly mourns her absence. Soon, Ra-an receives a letter from the senior eunuch, asking to meet and learn the truth about her father. But it turns out to be a trap set by the ministers to expose her connection with the prince. When they meet, the prince hugs her tightly despite his anger and asks if her feelings were real. To protect him, Ra-an denies everything and apologizes. Just then, Kim Bom arrives and helps her escape before the ministers enter. The prince, now alone, pretends he came due to a fake letter and orders an investigation. Before leaving, Ra-an tells the prince to forget her and not worry about her anymore, even if he hears news about her. Though it hurts, she walks away. Later, while helping her mother, Ra-an reflects on her father's past and begins to question the truth behind his death. Meanwhile, Kim Yoon-ae secretly takes the abandoned baby girl to a safe place, unable to care for her himself. At the same time, danger strikes again when thugs attack Ra-an's home and kidnap her, injuring her mother. Just in time, Kim Bom arrives and rescues her. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister is pleased, believing everything is going according to his plan. The Queen proudly celebrates having a son, while Kim Yoon quietly questions her happiness, raising suspicion. Meanwhile, the senior eunuch meets Ra-an and tries to take her with him, but she refuses. To pressure her, they claim the prince's condition is worsening because of her, hoping she will distance herself from him. In court, the Prime Minister pretends to resign to appear innocent, but the prince refuses and demands real proof instead. Soon, posters spread across the land labeling Ra-an as a criminal, making it impossible for her to return safely. Hearing this, the prince feels hurt and wonders why she hasn't asked about him. Despite the danger, he asks Kim Bom to arrange one last meeting. When they meet, the prince is relieved to see her, but Ra-an acts cold and distant. She pretends to fear him and even points a knife at him, saying they are enemies because of their fathers. Though heartbroken, the prince understands her intention. He breaks their bracelet and promises never to call her again, then returns to the palace and decides to move on with his life. Later, Ra-an comes home to find everything in chaos, fearing for her mother's safety. At the same time, the prince prepares for his wedding, but shocking news arrives. Hong Yong has been captured. In a flashback, it's revealed how Ra-an's father once sacrificed himself to protect his family years ago. Hearing of his possible return, the king is overwhelmed with fear and collapses as the truth from the past begins to resurface. When Ron reaches home and sees everything destroyed, she panics. Inside, she finds her mother in shock, who reveals that her father, thought dead, has returned after 10 years, but was taken away by soldiers. Hearing this, Ra-an breaks down in tears. At the palace, the senior eunuch vows to save Hong Yong no matter the risk. He reassures Ra-an and her mother that he will protect them. Though warned of the danger, Ra-an insists on meeting her father at least once, and the eunuch finally agrees to help her. Meanwhile, the king is terrified, realizing Hong Yong might truly be alive. Despite the prince's concern for his health, the king angrily orders a brutal punishment and insists on personally interrogating him. The ministers support this, secretly hoping to use the situation to turn the king against the prince. Disguised as a soldier, Ra-an sneaks into the palace with Kim Yoon-ae's help. While he guards outside, she reaches her father's cell, but has to leave before seeing him. She quietly leaves behind a small clue for him. As they escape, they narrowly avoid being caught by the ministers, though one of them begins to suspect her identity. The prince questions Hong Yong, asking if his family knows he's been captured. Hong Yong calmly replies that he has no family, and speaks boldly about leadership, saying a true ruler should serve the people, not rule by birth. His words leave a strong impact. Meanwhile, Kim Bom secretly brings Ra-an back into the palace, where she unexpectedly faces the prince again. Though still hurt, He hides her in a secret room once used by his mother and promises to help her meet her father. At the same time, the minister confirms Ra-An's presence in the palace and plans to use her to trap the prince. Soon, Ra-An finally meets her father. Their emotional reunion is filled with regret and love as both express their pain over lost time. The prince, watching from a distance, feels deeply moved by their bond. As they leave, danger rises again. The queen's eunuch spots them and tries to report it, but Kim Yune intervenes. He then confronts the queen, hinting that he knows her secret about the hidden baby, forcing her to stay silent for now. Kim Yune warns the queen that if the abandoned baby is found alive, the truth will come out, leaving her speechless. Meanwhile, Ra-En tells the prince she doesn't want him to suffer because of her, but he reassures her. As night falls, they decide to stay together, sharing a quiet moment. At the same time, the king has a terrifying dream about Hong Yong and orders an urgent investigation. The prince meets Hong Yong again, and they speak about what makes a true king. Hong Yong believes a real ruler is chosen by the people and treats them as equals. The prince agrees, saying he wants to build a better world alongside his people. Their shared thoughts begin to create a mutual respect between them. Soon, Hong Yong is brought to court for judgment. At the same time, Ra-An is captured and dragged there. Seeing her father being tortured breaks her heart. Hong Yong boldly speaks against corruption, saying the officials misuse the people's money. Enraged, the king orders his execution, but the prince stops it, asking for a fair hearing. The prime minister then accuses the prince of protecting Hong Yong because of his secret relationship with Ra-An. She is brought forward, shocking everyone. To protect her, Hong Yong denies any connection to her, which makes Ra-An cry. The pressure grows as the king demands proof of the prince's loyalty. Just as the situation turns deadly, chaos erupts. Kim Bom makes a bold move. He threatens the prince's life to force everyone to let Ra-An and her father escape. No one dares to act, and they manage to get away. Though the prince is hurt by this, it reflects the deeper conflict between loyalty, justice, and the world they all wish to change. Kim Bom admits he once wanted to see the prince's dream world too, but their paths were divided. The prince realizes his true feelings and begs him not to drop the sword, knowing it will cost him his life. But Kim Bom refuses to follow the order and lets the sword fall. In the next moment, arrows strike him. The prince rushes to him, holding him tightly and confessing his deep trust, but Kim Bom dies in his arms. Later, as soldiers carry his body away, Kim Yoon stops them and takes him, only to notice a faint sign of life he might still be alive. A month passes and the prince appears completely changed, spending time in gambling houses. The ministers use this to turn the king against him, suggesting he should be removed as crown prince. Meanwhile, the prime minister plans to make the queen's son the next king, which frightens the queen as she recalls the hidden truth about the real child. At the same time, the prince secretly keeps Kim Bom under treatment, often visiting him while pretending to live carelessly. Ra-An also comes to see Kim Bom and is overjoyed when he finally regains consciousness. Back in court, the prince defends his actions, explaining that he stepped outside the palace to understand his people better, showing that his strange behavior is actually part of a deeper plan. The prince reveals that his visit to gamblers helped him uncover a dark truth: people who tried to speak out were silenced forever. Using this evidence, he exposes the corruption in court and orders the guilty ministers to be arrested. At the same time, the queen secretly searches for a baby linked to a dead maid, while the prince begins to suspect a hidden conspiracy involving the royal family. The prince later confronts the prime minister with proof about the maid and her child. Tension rises as the queen admits shocking truths about her past and warns the minister not to threaten her. Soon after, the prince is poisoned through the outer surface of his food container, causing him to collapse. Ra-An, disguised, rushes to save him with the teacher's help. When he wakes, he realizes it was her but keeps quiet, asking her to stay by his side. Meanwhile, the queen orders the baby to be killed, but the prince arrives just in time to stop it. Secrets continue to unfold when the princess remembers a hidden letter that could expose everything. As danger grows, Kim Yoon risks his life to protect Ra-An, fighting off enemies despite severe injuries. In the end, he sacrifices himself, leaving everyone heartbroken. With the truth finally revealed, the Prime Minister confesses his crimes and is imprisoned, while the Queen is also punished. The prince reflects on his mother's wish for a fair and just kingdom and chooses to honor it. He forgives Ra'an for hiding her identity, recognizing her good intentions. A year later, the prince becomes king and begins ruling with justice and equality, earning everyone's respect. Kim Bom, now alive, praises him as a ruler who brings light to others. Ra'an opens a bookstore and writes a book about him. When they meet again, the king playfully teases her, then admits she changed his life forever. Their story ends with a heartfelt kiss, marking a happy and hopeful conclusion.